A lot of people think that they can't apply for remote executive assistant roles because they've never worked as an EA before. But employers aren't just looking at your job title. They're looking for signs that you can organize work, communicate clearly, handle sensitive information, and follow through. And you may already have some of those skills. Maybe you work in a BPO, customer service, administration, hospitality, teaching, project coordination. The title may be different, but parts of the experience can still transfer. So, if you're starting from zero, these are the 9 steps I'd focus on. First, understand what a remote executive assistant actually does. The role is much broader than calendar management. One EA may spend most of the day managing an executive's inbox, calendar, travel. Another may be preparing meetings, coordinating projects, and following up with different teams. So, before you start learning random tools, read at least 10 real EA job descriptions. Write down responsibilities that keep reappearing. You'll probably see things like calendar management, inbox management, travel coordination, meeting preparation, research, and project follow-ups. That gives you a much clearer idea of what to work on. Next, look at the skills you already have. If you work in customer service, you already know how to communicate with different personalities. You've probably had to stay calm when someone was frustrated. That matters. If you work in BPO, you may already be used to in documenting processes, responding quickly, handling high volume messages, and working with overseas clients. If you work in hospitality, you know what it means to notice details and think ahead. Teaching builds planning and clear communication. Project coordination builds ownership and follow through. Admin work may have already given you experience with documents, schedules, records, and private information. That doesn't mean you're ready for every EA role, but it does mean you may not be starting with zero. Then learn the core tools. See, you don't need to master every platform that's mentioned in every job post. Start with the common ones. Learn Gmail or Outlook. Practice using Google Calendar. Learn how to organize files in Google Drive or Dropbox. Get comfortable using Google Docs, Google Sheets, and Google Slides. Learn to communicate using Zoom, Google Meet, or Slack. Then choose one task management tool. That could be Asana, ClickUp, Notion, or Monday.com. You don't need to know all 4. You need to know how to create a task, assign an owner, set a deadline, and track the follow-up. Once you know the basic, practice the actual work. Create a sample event on the calendar, then add a conflict. Maybe the executive has an internal meeting and client call booked at the same time. Decide which meeting should move, then write the message you'd send. Build a travel itinerary with the flight, hotel, transport, meeting times, and contact information. Take messy meeting notes and turn them into decisions, action items, owners, and deadlines. Start with 2 or 3 exercises. You don't need to do everything at once. If you haven't already, create a LinkedIn profile. Nobody requests or reads resume in this day and age. A lot of LinkedIn profiles say the same things. Organized, hardworking, detail-oriented. Those may all be true, but employers see them constantly. Give them proof instead. Instead of saying you're organized, say that you coordinated schedules for 5 team members. Instead of saying you're a good communicator, explain that you've handled high volume of messages from customers and that you've escalated urgent concerns. Instead of saying you're detail-oriented, say that you've maintained confidential records and checked documents for errors. You can also use volunteer, freelance, or community experience. Just describe it honestly. You should also prepare for scenario-based interview questions. You may be asked what you do if 2 urgent requests came in at the same time. Don't just say, I'd prioritize. Explain how. Check deadlines. Look at what happens if either task is delayed. Decide whether one task can be delegated. Then communicate the plan and keep both people updated. The hiring manager is not only checking whether you know the right answer, they're listening to how you think. Don't get too attached with a job title. Your first relevant role may be a junior executive assistant, but it could also be admin assistant, virtual assistant, operations assistant, project coordinator, client coordinator, or personal assistant. Look at the responsibilities. Does the role include scheduling, communication, coordination, documentation, or follow-up? That matters more more than the title. Your first role doesn't need to be your dream role. It needs to give you useful experience and room to grow. And before you accept anything, check the opportunity carefully. Don't choose a role only because it's remote. Ask about the working hours, check the time zone expectations, find out how onboarding works. Ask what success should look like in the first 90 days, and look closely at the scope. Sometimes a company says it's hiring an EA, but the job includes customer support, sales, social media, operations, and personal errands. A broad role isn't automatically bad, but the responsibilities, schedule, and pay should be clear. You need to know what you're agreeing to. You don't need to pretend you already know everything. Understand the role, learn the basics, practice the work, create proof. Then apply for opportunities that gives you room to grow. Tell me in the comments what work you're transitioning from. I will see you in the next one.